Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Angela Jordan Perry with the Homeschool Upstart. We are on day number 4, and I hope that these other days have served you well. It's been quite a bit of homework, and I want to give you time to digest each element and conversation piece that we have as we go through the Homeschool Upstart. And each day after this, it really should be just more information, not so much quote unquote work to do. But I do want to always give the opportunity to solidify what we're going over by allowing you to have time to do some quote unquote work, okay, if that makes sense. Today's conversation and piece of coaching that I want to give you is around proper method of deschooling from public school. This is what day 4 is. Proper method of deschooling from public school. Now, if your child has never gone through public school and maybe you're just getting the journey started, absolutely fine. But you yourself probably have been the product of public school. So you have to go through this deschooling process. Now, if both you and your child or children have been at all connected to public school, then this deschooling process is going to be key and pertinent to moving forward and will be pertinent to your success and freedom and enjoyment of schooling. Okay, so I know that deschooling is a foreign subject. Most people are clueless to what that even is. What does that mean? What does that even look like? So I totally, totally get that. And so we're going to break that down and help you to understand why it is important to go through this deschooling process and give you some work to solidify to think around it. I hope that you are doing the work because once you put it to practice and to work and pull out those things out of your brain and put it onto paper, then you make this process real. Okay, you make the process real. All right, so uh, as you start on your homeschooling journey, as your coach and your guide, I would strongly suggest giving deschooling its due diligence. It must be done. It should be done. I don't think it's any way around it if you desire to have a successful journey in home education. So, as you look into your manual uh, on page 2, I give the understanding and the terminology around deschooling. So, let's break down that terminology, and then you're going to begin to rebuild upon new knowledge, a new frame of mind, and a new paradigm around schooling and what that should look like, feel like, and just be. Okay. So the term deschooling was created by a gentleman named Ivan Illich. Okay. And hopefully I'm saying his last name correctly, but Illich. All right. And he defines the term of deschooling as the shift from a traditional government influenced institution of schooling to less restricted method of learning that focuses on being educated by one's natural curiosities. Okay, so basically, this deschooling process is the process of ridding your mind, your knowledge base, your understanding of what traditional or government influence, which is public school, what it looks like is very stricted, lots of restrictions, lots of must do's, how to do it. This is what it looks like. You sit in your seat, you raise your hand, you stand up and give your answer, you are given information, you regurgitate that information back on a test. There's all types of rubrics in which uh, are given to ensure that a student is learning what they have set out for that student to learn. The day starts at a specific time, the day ends at a specific time. the teacher, the educator in that facility or in that atmosphere is king or queen. They are in charge. Your child is secondary or maybe third dairy or fourth dairy down the list of importance. The curriculum, the agenda, their scheme and layout of academics is priority, and the student is just one who has to participate because they have to learn. And then the parent follows after that because then they just have to adhere to and support what this institution is indicating is important for the student to learn and how that student is to learn. Okay. When you go through the deschooling method, again, you are erasing all of that thought process and you are following the child's natural curiosity. Now, there is this balance, of course, in deschooling, along with what is required for the student to learn in the state. But for the most part, you have to go through this process of figuring out all the things that you believe and understand school to be so that you will not now bring that into your homeschooling and follow the same rigidity, the same thought process, the same confinement, the same idea that the student is secondary, third dairy, fourth dairy, with you following. Well, in this case, it would not be you following, it's going to be you now as king and queen standing in the position of the educator of how they would be in public school. And the student just have to follow the agenda that's laid out with no ability to participate in their learning, with no ability to have a voice, and with no ability to follow their curiosity of interests. Okay. On the first page here on page 3, I want you to know that, well, on page 3, I have a little, uh, you know, table laid out in which it allows you to make a list of everything you can think of in which um, makes school school and what is included, what's involved, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to say on the forefront that going through this deschooling and the benefits of deschooling is numerous. Okay, it is numerous, so many benefits. The first thing is the greatest benefit is that, man, now that you're homeschooling, you get to step into this world of freedom, freedom to create, to make your school what you want it to be. And not only that, you step into this arena of uh, fostering a love of learning for your child and for yourself. Those are paramount reasons right there to go through the deschooling process. Okay. But even beyond that, it causes you to now not have this burden of emulating and copying public school or private school to a T and bringing it at home and living that out day in and day out as you home educate. So the idea is to eliminate that erroneous thought process and to tear down what has been put up and erected before us and say, this is the standard for schooling. Now follow it or copy it or adhere to that. So we're tearing that down. And now we're saying, wow, we're going to do our own thing and create our own idea of what school is. So on this first table I have for you, I really want you to think about, make a list of everything that you know in your brain and in your child's brain. Solicit this support and help of others to give your list as well, to add to this list. And while I think I only have maybe 10, 15 slots here. You can continue your list on the back of your paper if you need to, but make a list of everything that you believe that's what makes school school. And I've given you some examples. Some people really feel that school is not school unless you have a blackboard or a whiteboard up in your room somewhere, in your house somewhere, which the teacher will stand at and write on this board. Okay, that is something that some people think. Or desks you may add to your list, or having homework. That was always a part of school, having homework, or starting your school day at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. These are just some examples. And then once you come up with your list, I want to encourage you to write the opposite of what would be. Okay, so what we're doing is looking at the standard and the example that we have been led to believe must be and to follow. And now we're going to say, hey, this is the opposite. This is a huge paradigm shift. And this is also a huge, dying to to this ideal that has been set up as what we should follow as school. So write your list, create it. You can do that now. You can pause this video and write your list, or you can do it afterwards. But go ahead and write that list of everything you all can think of that would you consider make school, okay? So you can pause or you can continue on listening forward. Now, moving on to the next aspect that I want you to think about. As you contemplated everything that you put on the list that is in traditional school, I want you to know that I'm not saying that everything that you put on that list is wrong or not healthy or is harmful. I'm not saying that at all, okay? The idea is just to remember that homeschooling should be freeing and life-giving in this learning process, okay? And the other idea, again, as I mentioned before, is the idea of allowing creativity and the love of learning to be birthed. And sometimes, I won't say sometimes, this is what I say, what we have been exposed to in public school and what continues to be perpetuated is not freeing, and it's not life-giving, and it's not something that births creativity nor births this love of learning. And so we have to change it. If you ever heard the saying that, you know, um, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result or outcome. So it would be totally insane of us to do the same things that we were products of, expecting, or I should say, doing the same thing that we were products of, doing that very same thing in your homeschooling, and now expecting a different outcome now with our children, only because we're in the home. And things don't happen that way. So if you want a different outcome, you have to start with different approaches. You have to start with a different landscape, mindset, different tools and resources so that then you can have a different outcome. Okay. So we're trying to demolish the insanity, okay? And the way to demolish the insanity is to start with a new playing field, okay? A clean slate. All right. So that's what the process of creating your lists will help to do. Now, in the next table, I've given you space and only 18 slots, but you all can continue the thought process on more paper on the back of your sheet, or just start another sheet. But now write down everything that you enjoy, everything that you love. If you had the opportunity to do these things every day, all day, what would be on your list? And parents, you get involved too. What are things that you enjoy that really, warms your heart and your enjoyment of education space, if you will? Name out those things And once you created your list of all of those things, I wrote down a few things. One is drawing anime. Maybe you have kids who love anime or origami. Or mom, maybe you thoroughly enjoy cooking. Or you're like me, I love cleaning. I don't know why, but I enjoy cleaning my house. I just like clean space. And so the important thing is once you created this list of things you enjoy, then I want you to give yourself and your child or your children this beautiful treat. Make sure that these things are evident and definitely a part of your schooling, because as you discover things you are interested in or add to the list things you would like to learn about, I would love to learn about clay pottery. And actually, I started the journey of getting involved in that. And and then their schedule or something didn't work, and so I couldn't do that. But that is still on my list to delve into clay pottery. Oh, I would love to do that. Maybe something that you would love to do is becoming a master gardener, a flower gardener. That is something that now you can incorporate into your schooling journey and become a learner of those things. Okay. That's what, oh, beautiful. This is so beautiful. That's what education or this deschooling process is, and what education should be about. Okay. Now, I go back to the idea that in your state, depending on which state you're in, there are some regulations that you have to follow and rules you have to follow. But I want to present to you that before you actually start your traditional, requirements of homeschooling in your state, take a month, 2 months, 3 months, go through the deschooling process and do completely opposite of what you believe schooling would be. And then once you've done the complete opposite of what you think schooling should be, now you can create the framework of what you desire your schooling to be. Now that you've done the opposite of what schooling is, now you can say these are things that we like these things, and these are things we don't like, and we don't like that these things. Okay. So if you're in the state of South Carolina, where I am, I would encourage you to take the summer. I mean, we're kind of in the summer now, or take at least, a month of deschooling, every day, maybe 7 days a week. It's up to you, 5 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it may be. Go through the deschooling process of, looking at all the things that you believe school to be, doing the opposite of those things, and diving into a few, or as many as you like, of things that you enjoy, want to learn about, or interested in from the list that you create on page 4. Okay. Now just be a student of those things and learn those things and enjoy those things together. Go on those field trips that you want to engage in. Go to those places that you have always wanted to go to. Travel, if you can, to those places and just dive into that learning atmosphere that you all have laid out and created. And now, make it happen. And as you have identified those things that you're interested in, that you want to be sure that's in your school, part of your schooling, now, now you are in a position to create, map out what it is that you want to see happen in your school day, your school month, your school year. Okay. And just realize that the deschooling process is ongoing. It really is, because life happens, things change, you have to adjust. Um, Literally, sometimes it may be from week to week, month to month, maybe year to school year. Okay. My schooling does not look like my homeschooling does not look like it did when I started 20 years ago. As of this recording in 2020, 20 years ago is when I started my journey of homeschooling. And how I school now is vastly different than how I started then. And I'm constantly going through the deschooling process because while one year I may be totally liberated in a thought process and say, I don't want to have in my school year, then 2 years later, I find myself doing the very thing that I thought, oh, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Why am I stressing out over X, Y, and Z? That's not what I want for our schooling. And this is stressful for you all, my children, stressful for me. This is not the schooling that we want to create. All right, let's start all over. And so then the next year, we start again going through the deschooling process of what we don't want to have, what we believe that we should have, what we don't want to have, what did not serve us, what is not serving us, and change it up. What things do we want to learn now? What new things do we want to dive into now? What resources can I present out to you all now that you all wanted to learn and glean from? Okay, so it constantly is changing, constantly is changing. So while academics is very important in homeschooling, equally important, if not more important, is creating the love of learning. Just allowing the curiosity of a child to bloom will foster the love of learning. And we want and desire that love of learning to go on all the way until they're 80 or 90, always curious, always asking questions, always in wonderment, always wanting to go and investigate and research and understand, okay? And not just regurgitate information, but them leading the way and spearheading their interest as they pull from their interest bank. Okay. So we don't want to keep studies strict. We don't want to keep it stagnant, full of boundaries. All of these things will stifle the curiosity of a child. Okay. So now you get to be creative. You become the designer of your homeschool and home educating journey, okay? And as they are loving learning, as I mentioned before, you now are regaining your education because now you are becoming a person who's also interested in learning. Oh man, I wonder what makes the sky blue. Why is the sky blue? Well, now you just stepped into science and you all are on a quest of understanding why the sky is blue. Wow, why and how can hummingbirds fly backwards? They're the only bird that can fly backwards. Why is that? Well, now you get to go on this journey of understanding how is that possible? Now that's science or history. I wonder who created the weed whacker. Why was that created? Who created it? Now you get to go on a journey of history, understanding weed whacker. And I mentioned that because my long maintenance person was just here this morning and they were weed whacking. And so anyway, it just came to mind. But history can become based on curiosity. Science can become based on curiosity. Math can become based on curiosity too, but maybe you want a curriculum that's included or maybe not. Your child understanding telling time because they get to have free time at 3 o'clock. Well, mom, I don't have a clue. What does 3 o'clock look like? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Let's take some time today to learn about telling time. Let's learn about a digital clock. Let's learn about an analog clock. These are things now. Who created numbers? That's history and learning numbers, Arabic numbers, and all of this. So incorporating curiosity would take you on a lot of rabbit trails, right? But it will also keep it vibrant and alive. Now, if your personality is not one that likes to be, learning this and going here and that, and you like some exact steps and guidance along the way, then just make sure that you incorporate the curriculum that helps your personality to be you, but then also incorporate the curiosity and the uh, enjoyment of learning and understanding why and how and who and what, which will help foster this love of learning. Create both of them in your world of schooling. That needs to be there. I very much am a red personality. I like, strict things, boundaries. We're going to do this. I like curriculum, but I do have children who are very much into creative thoughts. They're inquisitive. They're kids and they want to know, and going with them and going on their journey and on their path causes me to have to divert from my personality and lend time into now searching and learning and pulling up on the computer and this and that and the other, which can be frustrating. I won't lie to you, because that's not where my brain is. I just need the basics and the direct information just to get it out there and do it. But I have to give them time in our schooling day to be themselves and to learn and to do and put their hands to things. Okay. So hopefully this is going to put you on a great track to freedom, creativity, love of learning, and just creating and designing what you all want your space and day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year to look like. And then being flexible, okay, keyword, being flexible and pliable to make the adjustments that needs to be made as you go on your journey, okay? So here's to learning with freedom, interest, and curiosity. Peace, and I'd love to hear your feedback.